All right, well, welcome back to the Sean Trey Show. Today, I have a really interesting guest. Now, would you like to introduce yourself, tell people who you are and what you do?
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it. I'm Tanner Paul. I'm an alternative pop artist that's kind of debuted here in the last year and a half since COVID.
Nice.
So, yeah, that was my first time doing like a solo project, like by myself, not in a band. So.
That's pretty cool. So can I ask you, that's interesting that you pointed out, like you debuted post after COVID hit. Like,
yeah.
Was there anything that was like a catalyst that just said, you know, hey, this is the time to do this? What was it that made you kind of take that step?
It honestly took a lot of thinking, because I started the project and everything, started recording, started making my first song before COVID. And then I had this finished project, and like I didn't know how long COVID was gonna last. I'm like, do I wait till after to release and debut? Do I like wait till we can play shows again and like go out in the world and promote this song, or do I release it, you know, now? And it took me a little bit to think about it, and then I ended up releasing it in 2020, like late 2020.
Nice. Nice.
So yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, awesome. It wasn't like COVID made it happen.
It wasn't like there was some catalyst or some.
Yeah, but it did actually like really help me like invest a ton of time into my music, more so than I would have been able to if I was just continuing my routine before.
Right. I kicked off this podcast, and we went into Vietnam handled COVID real well. First wave, they locked down, they handled it, and we were like, while the rest of the world was getting slammed, we were actually living pretty normally here, you know.
Yeah. Going
out, we were traveling, we were doing stuff all inside the country. But then around April, a couple cases of Delta got in, and it was just like, and the whole country got slammed. And so we went into a 5-month lockdown, and like those days are just like, you're sitting there, you go, what am I doing with my time?
What do I do?
Yeah, what am I gonna do? And I was just like, and the media got really heavy during that time. And I was just like, man, I got overwhelmed every time I was going on Facebook, every time I was listening to stuff. And I just said, I got to put something good out. I got to put something inspiring out. I gotta help other people, because I know I'm not alone, man. Just feeling like I'm getting blasted by stuff, you know?
Right.
So it's interesting that you pointed out as well, like you've got this time. What are you going to do?
Yeah, exactly. And me and my a good friend of mine actually, like we had this idea to build our own studio.
Nice.
Create our own studio. Like we had our little like cool room mocked up with like a recording studio, little jam space, and we're like, we need something like official and like a dedicated space for it that's not like a room as well that you use for other, like, so we always had this kind of idea. And then, you know, with the whole lockdown, working from home thing, we ended up just building this whole studio from January 2020 to March, and got it all done within 3 months. We took his whole garage and just totally redid it. We put like proofing down on the floors and put carpets down.
Nice.
Like soundproof the whole garage door. It doesn't even look like a garage anymore. And then like we went around town here locally to like all these businesses and asked them if we could take their like pallets that were behind the businesses, and we took them home and just like tore them all apart and broke them all apart, took all these cool pieces of wood and put them all over the walls.
That's awesome.
And it looks amazing. The space just feels great. And it's kind of been our own little secret little getaway hideaway during this whole lockdown thing, where we just go in there days and hours on end and just create.
It's awesome.
It's really fun.
This is one of the things that I've been really like, I think is super powerful for a lot of people. Like everyone would, pre-COVID, people would go out to work, you know, go to the company. I remember once I had a 2-hour commute for a 4-hour job. You know what I mean?
Oof.
I'd go there and I would like, it would be going through LA traffic, and I got there and then I would do this, it was a teaching gig. And then I finished, and it was a part-time job. And I was like, I got to drive 2 hours, you know, an hour and a half home.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that far, but it was just LA traffic. And I was just like,
LA traffic, yeah.
I spent so much time out doing stuff that it was really crazy. Like, but with COVID, people were just like, wow, man, working remotely is pretty awesome, and
Yeah. It was like weird for people at the beginning, but I think humans just have like this incredible way to adapt.
yes.
And just make things comfortable for themselves, because it's just where you want to be and how everyone wants to feel, and we have just a way of taking our surroundings and what is given to us and somehow still getting there.
Right. I like that. Now, I want to hear about your musical journey. How did you get into music? Where did you start, man? Like, let's go back. Did you grow up with music? Like, how did you get into music?
So, when I was real young, there was a period of time where I was living with my aunt and my uncle in LA.
Yeah.
And I was living with them for a while my mom was like trying to figure out the living situation and where we were going and stuff. And my uncle played guitar. And I mean, at this point, I'm maybe like 8 or 9, around that age. And I was just really fascinated with it, and just, hearing, like, I always heard music and stuff, but then like seeing someone, especially someone like a family member, all of a sudden sit down and play guitar and like hear the sound come out, and you're like, hey, I know that song. Like, it was just something that just instantly, like, absolutely took over my interest. And then after I ended up moving back with my mom for a while, I kind of let it go for some reason. I'm not sure why. There just wasn't a guitar around. I didn't end up asking for one for some reason. I just ended up, doing what all the local kids were doing wherever I moved to. And then around 2005, I moved out here to my dad. Like, right now I'm in San Clemente, like kind of like South OC area.
Yeah.
So I moved out here in 2005. And then that same year, one of my dad's friends that he hung out with weekly played guitar. And then I like just revamped that interest, and I was just like, oh yeah, why did I stop? And then my dad ended up getting me a guitar that year, and then I've just been playing guitar ever since. I ended up being in a few bands as their guitarist, and then it wasn't until recently that I started just really getting into everything else, like outside of guitar, like singing, producing, keys, drums, bass, like just like expanding and exploring more of my interests.
That's awesome.
Because awesome. Guitar is amazing and fun, and I will always love it. But after being a guitarist in bands for a little over 10, 11 years, I want to start trying something different.
And I love your music, man. It was you sent me some really cool samples, and you have a very like unique styling that I was really impressed by. Can tell for the people who haven't heard your music, what is some of the vibe that you have in your music?
Yeah, so a lot of bands that I've been listening to lately, like my music interest is always changing, and when I started to decide that I wanted to do like a little solo project and kind of sing and make my own songs and make my own style rather than writing with a band, being very collaborative, which is really fun, but I also have interests myself that maybe some other people don't like, so I still want to explore those.
Right.
And I got a lot of influence from like bands that have been kind of recently coming up, like Glass Animals.
Nice.
Is a huge influence of mine. I like Electric Guest, Jungle, and kind of those kind of bands where they're really doing a very good job at like mixing like samples and MIDI instruments along with live instruments, and just a lot of energy and a lot of feelings going on in the songs, that's both like powerful and strong as far as the beat and the bass goes, which is something you can't really do always with only live instruments.
Yeah.
And then adding that stuff on top of it, it creates a sound and a feeling that I was just overwhelmed with when I was going to live shows, and I'm like, that's what I want to do. Like, that's what I want to do. So I want to make people feel. So I just started exploring that, and working with a producer friend of mine right here in San Clemente as well, and we came up with those tracks, and we're working on an EP right now, and yeah, excited.
That's awesome, man. And I think that I think that people people always will get into, and this is something that's come up again and again and again when I'm, talking to people on this podcast.
Yeah.
People that are wanting to be creative are constantly running up into that filter that people want to put on them. They're like this is the way it is.
Right.
Why would you want to change? Why do you want to take a step beyond what it is? But like the true beauty of the evolution of music, the evolution of sound, is that it's constantly the limits are being pushed.
Yeah.
And and you look at it across the board, like any great musician. I think some of the greatest musicians in history have been people who were innovators, were trying new things. They took what was there and said, let's adapt it. And people would be like, oh, they stole this or that. Well, no. They adapted it, because let's be real, nothing's new.
At this point,
there's nothing new. I mean, there's so much stuff that's been done, but yet you can find a new way to kind of package it.
Put it all, exactly. Yeah, for sure. And it's just like this fine line I feel like that artists deal with when they start, becoming successful and evolving and growing, is like, you got to have this fine line of like sounding like you and having your own sound.
Yeah.
But also always changing and evolving and becoming better and making stuff that's different, but still you. Because like I feel like fans always are like a new album comes out, they're like, oh, I liked the vibe of the last album.
You're right.
And and then you're like, yeah, but that was that album. Now I'm changing. Like this album for different reasons. Don't be mad that I didn't remake that same album.
There was a famous singer from like the 70s. I can't remember who it was. I'll have to look this up. Not right now, but later. But the singer was like, he went to the studios and he came in with his new album, and he got signed by this one label because of his old sound. And when he got to the label, he kind of presented them with this whole new album, and they're like, that's not what we want. We want what you sang before. Like, that's what we signed you for. And he's like, well, this is what I created, this is it. This is what we're putting out. And another one who's recently was like that. And I my wife's a huge fan of hers, is Beyonce. Like, Beyonce's old albums were very much over here, but one of her new albums was just like, was it completely tonally, it sounded completely different. You know what I mean? And that's what she wanted to do, which is like, but I mean, she also can do that because she's Beyonce. You know what I mean? It's like, for other artists, there's a lot of pushback. You know what I mean? And
and it can be hard when you start having success, and then all of a sudden there's expectations, and then now you feel like you're in like this creative bubble. You're like, I don't want to do that. That's too different than what I used to do. Because like you're like worried that the fans aren't gonna like it. It's like, wait a minute. Like, the music's for me. Like, at the end of the day, like, it's what I'm expressing and what I'm feeling. So it's a fine line.
It's a fine line, man. And there's that balance, because, and it's interesting now because of one of the beauties that I love of I know that the music industry is really shifting dramatically, with the new, but I mean, the beauty of people being able to release their own music and put it out into, all these different platforms, is that there used to be that bottleneck. Like, you would have to get the studio to sign off, and understandably, they would put a lot of money, the record labels put a lot of money into marketing and promotion, and they would like have to go to these different radio stations and get them to play it. You know what I mean? And there was money involved in that. You know what I mean? There's like, let's be real. Like, there was some money under the table, I'm sure, was going into that.
For sure.
And
for sure.
So I mean, they had to. They had to be sure it was a sure thing. You know what I mean? And that was a big part of it. Versus now, a person can. We built out a home studio, luckily, before COVID. you know? And we got super lucky. I just had this vibe. I was like, we need to get a home studio so we can record stuff. And luckily we had it so that we were able to record stuff. My wife is a famous singer here in Vietnam. She's the first winner of Vietnam Idol. And so I help her do her stuff. And I sing along with her. I'm not a musician, but I love music. And I'll sing with her. And, but I do all of our videos and media. And so kind of the pairing. But again, coming back to the point, like, it's tricky, and it is literally a fine line to balance what you love and what the people want to hear, you know?
Yeah. And then you find that one thing, that one song that does work, that ends up being, you know, successful and loved, and then you keep trying to, you gotta like try to chase that same vibe with making it different still. It's kind of crazy.
Well, you
match what you've done.
When you hear about, sorry to interrupt, man. You reminded me of the story of Bobby McFerrin, like. And I'm not 100% sure on this, but like, you know, he had that what was it? Don't worry. Was it? Yeah. What was his? Was it Don't Worry, Be Happy?
Was that
Don't worry, be happy now. Ooh,
oh, that one. Yeah.
And like that was the song he was known for. But like, if you ever watch like him in live shows, the man is an amazing vocalist. He has this range, this depth. His shows are beautiful. But he got known for that song. And I remember reading, and I don't know if this is true, it might be anecdotal, but you know, that he wasn't a huge fan of that. Because
tends to happen quite a bit.
Right?
It tends to happen quite a bit to where people's favorites aren't
the different singer's favorite.
Yeah, aren't the singer's favorite. Yeah, absolutely.
What motivates you? What would you like what inspires you for the music that you write?
Honestly, feeling. When I'm in the studio and creating and producing, and just writing songs, I try to focus more on the feeling than the sound.
Nice.
So like when I'm mixing or writing or whatever, like, of course, sounding cool is very important, but a lot of times when I'm happy with the sound that I'm making or writing or just, you know, messing around with, it's usually because, like, I can physically feel it. Whether it's, like, the bass that's, like, making, like, my body physically feel good, or a line that is, like, a lyric or something that is just... like every time I sing that line, it's like enjoyable, and I'm like looking forward to singing that line.
I love
like
that.
Things that like things that are like just make me feel a type of way rather than just sounding cool. That's like kind of what I always try to cultivate when I'm writing.
I love that.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I see it with my daughter, right? And if I try to think about it for like adult music, I start getting into my rational mind and start, you know, breaking down, well, this is why people like this song, or this was, but when I think about kids songs, you know, like they like the way it makes them feel. I mean, I literally don't want to hear Baby Shark another time in my whole life. But like when my kid was younger, man, she would put that on and it was just like, you know, little 3-year-old kid was like, this is my jam. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They like, start moving, like everything. Yeah. They're just, the whole body just takes over.
You know, but it was this feeling. It was like, it was a catchy vibe, but it was like, it was little kid club music. You know what I mean? It's
absolutely. And like, that's like the best way to tell if something like that is working, is like, because they can't help it. They're just they like what they're hearing, and then they're moving. It's like they just can't help but do it. They can't help but feel that way.
Yeah,
and it's music's so powerful like that, man.
There was a video recently on Instagram that was going around, and it was hilarious. The DJ was like playing that song was like "Turn Down for What," and so it was like the song was building up, and like, you know, the song was building up, and like they're videotaping the people that are dancing, right? And all of a sudden, right when the beat's about to drop, the guy switched over to ABBA's Happy New Year. Happy New Year, Happy New Year. And what was funny was like, it was this perfect example of how songs have an energy, and different songs have a different energy. And like, you know, when people hear that turn down for, they're just like, I am ready to break something, you know. And that's and that's what that music video showed, like things getting broken, and like it was a wild video. And you know, but they showed all of a sudden these people in the club just were like, it was just like this unfulfilled vibe, and it was crazy. It was crazy to watch. It was hilarious to watch, because there was this one kid that was just like, it felt like his soul was about ready to explode because he didn't get that beat drop.
It's unresolved.
It's so unresolved. He's just like, you know, it's on Instagram right now.
Please drop it. Please drop it.
Drop the beat, please. Please drop the beat. And then the DJ, I don't know if he did come back to it. I'm sure at some point he didn't keep Happy New Year on the whole night. But it was interesting, because what you're talking about is that vibe. When I watched that video, I was like, oh, there it is. That's interesting. Now, what is your writing process? How do you go about, like, you get a vibe. How does that vibe become a song?
They come in so many different ways. Sometimes, you know, a phrase will come first. Sometimes the song or the beat will come first. Lyrics, they may be my favorite part about songwriting.
Really? How so?
It's so fun to just play with words and make words fit, and just like expanding your vocabulary more, and just being able to write songs that mean stuff without being direct, and out just being like I love writing lyrics that like say one thing but mean something else. It's poetry.
It's
just so much fun.
Like we forget that beautiful lyrics are just poetry. And if you look at some of like lyrical masters, you know, like, and I mean, and there's so many great ones, you know, like you go to Bob Dylan or you know, a lot of those folk singers, or
Jim Morrison was a poet as well,
right?
He was a poet as well.
Look at the Fugees, you know, in hip hop too, and great hip hop. Oh man, the Fugees, you know, were just
some lyrics that were incredible.
It was fire.
And the new
and Lauryn Hill,
the new J. Cole album that just came out. His lyrics on that are just.
It's amazing.
It's crazy. It's amazing. It's just so fun to see where people's minds go, and it's fun to see where yours takes your like where you go in your own when you're songwriting, and it's just so much fun. So lyrics probably are my most enjoyable part of it, but I think generally I guess the verse comes first usually for me. The first verse is usually just what comes to me always. Choruses and hooks usually come later. When I have like a meaning of the song already, but there's just something about like writing verses and writing, like I said earlier, lines that just excite you, where I'm like, I can't wait to sing this line, or I can't wait to record this song. Like when I get that kind of excitement about an idea, I know I have a song that I should start building out more. And because I have hundreds of like verse ideas that I've just kind of let go to the side, because either it's just more of a drill, or more of like a practice, or just something that I liked a lot still, but nothing that I was like, all right, this is the idea that I'm going to take this to the studio and start building it.
I've spoken with a couple songwriters on this podcast, and both of them are just like strictly songwriters. Like that's what they do. They write songs for people. And one of the things they pointed out is like they'll come up with like 10 ideas, and like or even, you know, 30, 40, 50, and there's like, you know, a small handful that they're like, that's special. That's special. And it is something that, and it's hard to like, this is the thing too that's like crazy with music, like but with art in general, because we don't know how to describe often why something is good, but you know it's good.
Right. It goes back to that feeling thing. I think it's just you don't know why, but then all of a sudden you hear it and you have this feeling that overtakes your body. You're like, wow, this song's good.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And the same thing could be said for a painting or a movie.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Sometimes you just watch something and you go, That's great. And when people try to put their finger on it, it doesn't always hit. You know, like I always think that's funny when they will go. I love Rotten Tomatoes because one of the things with Rotten Tomatoes is like it's a good measurement of people's kind of vibe on something. And the critics will come out and get to see a movie first, and they're like, "Oh, this is not good."
Right.
So yeah, I'm not feeling it, you know. And then all of a sudden it's like 99 on Rotten Tomatoes or something,
Right.
you know. And like that's the thing. Or like one of my favorite examples is The Big Lebowski. Big Lebowski got just panned when it came out. People are like, "We don't get this. It's horrible." One of the greatest movies ever made, in my opinion. I love The Big Lebowski.
Yeah. And then did you see the Squid Games too?
Yeah, I watch it with my wife. I need to rewatch it in either Korean with English subs or in the English dub, because I was watching with her in Vietnamese, and I speak Vietnamese, but there were plot holes. But like, man, it was freaking good.
Yeah, the crazy part to me is the creator of that show. He made that show 10 years ago.
10 years,
and he's been rejected by all of these networks, and then he puts it out on Netflix, and then it's like the most watched show in history, or close to it.
I hope more creatives see that,
right?
Because I feel like so many people get told no, it's not good. No, you're not good enough. No, you don't have enough experience. No, you don't have this or that. And man, I've had my share of people that try to just put me in a box and go and shelve you, you know. And I feel like one of the things that I think you have to do is you have to be relentless.
That's what I was just about to say. Like, props to that creator for still pitching that show after a decade of rejection. Yeah, that is just.
My dad's got one like that. Do you remember the movie Hacksaw Ridge?
No, I can't say I do.
It was the story of Desmond Doss. It was Andrew Garfield. It was like Mel Gibson directed it, and it was like an Oscar nominee for a bunch of things. I don't know.
Oh, wow.
And so it was a big deal, right? 15 years ago, my dad came up to me. He's like, my stepmother's cousin, his wife's cousin, a guy named Terry Benedict. And Terry Benedict did this documentary. And my dad was always talking, Desmond Doss. And Terry's going to get this movie made, Desmond Doss. And I was like, yeah, Dad, whatever, man.
Yeah.
You know, it's a pipe dream. You know, it's like a lot of people want to get movies made. A lot of people want to get stuff done. Terry kept with it. He's like, this story is important. Desmond Doss was this guy during World War II. And you got to watch the movie. It's really actually interesting. It was Desmond Doss was a Christian guy, and his big thing was he didn't want to carry weapons. He didn't want to kill anyone, and so and they in boot camp people gave him a hard time, right? And they were just like, get out of the military. You shouldn't be here. But he stuck with it. He got through boot camp, and they sent him off to the theater in Asia. And so I believe it was the battle for Okinawa. It was really, really bad battle. And they were on this one place called Hacksaw Ridge, and the U.S. troops were taking massive casualties. And Desmond Doss kept running back and forth through the machine gun fire, getting wounded guys and lowering them down. I think it was like over 100 people that the dude single-handedly saved. Okay, powerful story. And just because he didn't have a gun, he just was like running back and forth, and he was like, if something happens to me, it happens. Terry knew Desmond Doss and said he was like one of the nicest people. He did the documentary about him, and then Terry didn't quit on this story. He kept going, and finally he got some executive producers in Hollywood to buy in, who then got Mel Gibson on board.
Yeah.
But
wow.
Again, just like Squid Games, man, he had to stick with it. For a long time, people were like, nope.
Yeah, and he just had the feeling that it was going to be something special. I think a lot of this stuff has to do with feeling. It's crazy.
Right.
How much our body it tells us when something's right, and when something feels wrong or something feels right. It's crazy. I love that.
No, I'm fully. I studied Chinese medicine and acupuncture, so I'm all about
Yeah.
the energy and chi of things, and so for me, I think that there's definitely something to that. I think there's
Absolutely.
we had the idea of when you do things in harmony with the energy, things flow. You know, there's this
Yeah.
fluidity, and it might not work out. The best way I could explain it is, you ever watch Harry Potter?
Yeah.
All right. So watch or read. So the Harry Potter part where Goblet of Fire, which hands down I think is probably the best movie. I love Goblet of
Yeah.
Fire. So
That's a really good one.
Really, right? So good. So Harry gets the liquid luck, the Felix Felicis, and he drinks it.
Yeah.
And he thought that this luck was just going to be like, you know, suddenly he gets the answer. But he's like,
Yeah.
I feel like I need to roll over this way. And he went down and he went there. And then all of a sudden something happened. Like, oh, shouldn't you do this? And he's like, all right, cool. And then he goes here. But it was just like, all the liquid luck did was allowed him to kind of fully go with the flow of finding his stuff.
Yeah,
I firmly
it's like
think
a
that's really
placebo.
true, man.
Yeah, I do too. I think if you like just tune into it and listen to it
Yep.
more.
Yep.
I mean, it's easier said than done, but yeah, I think a lot of people are afraid or like kind of push back on that because it's like scary and like kind of unknowing, and you kind of have to just go with it and let it happen, even though you may be reluctant in your head. Like, feels right. Like, it's a hard thing to tune into, but man, when you can, it feels good and things start happening.
There was an activity. I moved to Vietnam when I graduated college, and when I first moved here, but one of the big activities was really interesting. It was, the people would call it Đi Yom Yom. Đi means go, Yom Yom means around, and literally it was kind of like just cruising. They would get on their motorcycles and literally just kind of cruise around town. And when I first met up with someone, hopefully my wife isn't watching this episode, it was one of my first dates here, and the person was like, let's go Đi Yom Yom. And I was like, all right, cool, where are we headed? Because for me, for my culture, I needed to have a destination. I needed to know, where are we going? And that night on that date, you know, the girl's like, go this way. I'm like, okay, cool, I'm going. And she's like, go this way. Going. Go this way. And I'm literally following her. And like an hour and a half later, she has directed me back to her house. And she's like, okay, thank you. And I was like, what the hell just happened? What the hell just happened? What was that? I just drove around this city for an hour and a half, man. What happened? Yeah. But like, what I finally realized, and I started doing that like more often. I'd hop on my bike and go, I'm going to check this out. And it was interesting because when I did that, like, it was so freeing and so mind-opening. And I would find that, like, so one day I was like sitting there, the day I met my wife, I was sitting at home going, man, I want to go for a drive. Where? I don't know. I'm just going to see where I end up. And I start driving. I'm halfway across town, and I get to this vibe, and all of a sudden I was like, I want to go over to the recording studio. My friend might be over there. Drop by the recording studio. He was there. It was awesome. So I was like, all right, this is why I came here.
Yeah.
Dude's sitting on his phone in the hallway, smoking a cigar. He's on his phone for an hour, and I'm sitting there waiting. I'm like, man, I really should leave. This guy's being a jerk, man.
Yeah.
And so, but I'm like, I hear this really beautiful singing down the hallway. And I was like, first of all, I'm going to go see what that is. And I'm walking down the hallway. And I come around this corner, and there's this woman in the sound booth singing. Beautiful music, beautiful voice. And it was my wife. And it was like being in that moment. And I've got tons of stories like that. But like, you just step into it, man. Good things happen.
Exactly. Nothing ever comes as planned sometimes. And sometimes that's almost better. Happy accidents, like, are some of the best things about songwriting too, about anything. Happy accidents are just, they're a blessing, a gift.
Right. That's what I was going to ask you. And that's something that I've heard a lot of people talking about lately. Happy accidents. Like,
Yeah.
how, can you tell me a story about a happy accident that happened to you in your songwriting?
A lot of them come with a bass line, or like, I mean, I have a few that happen lyrically, but a lot of them was like, I have this guitar riff that I've written, that I've practiced forever. I'm like, oh, I really love the way it sounds, and I go into the studio, and man, I can play that guitar riff perfectly 100 times until
you go to record.
Until you hit the record, and then I'll go there and hit record, and then I'll play it. But then I'll play it slightly different, or play the wrong note here, or play this note extra longer. Then I listen to it back. I'm like, wow, that's actually better.
Right.
Or like stuff like that happens a lot. Or then like on Wanderlust, the one of the songs I have out, I have a guitar solo at the end, and that was just a warm up take. Like I was just warming up my guitar, like kind of warming my hands up, and we recorded that solo that's at the end of Wanderlust, and we must have done maybe like 20-25 takes after that one of me trying to get the solo to where I had written it, and we were like kind of envisioned it, and then going over playback, it was like one of the first 2 takes that I was just warming up and we were getting levels. I'm like, dude, that's the one. Like,
that's awesome.
And it's weird, it was like exactly not what I was going for, and not what I had written, not what I had intended, and all of us in the studio were like, dude, that's the one. So
that's the one. That's the one.
I love it.
That's really cool.
I love those kind of things.
I think that was one of the beautiful bands that would gig a lot too. You know, like early, like old. That was one of the things that, like, I love the new revolution with stuff going online, but it was really like there was this kind of like shifting away from live music, and it was like
yeah.
I was hearing some of the sets by some of these, and I'm not hating on bands, but I heard one live music set at the Emmys, or at the Grammys, the Grammys by a pretty big band, and I was just like, whoa. It was pretty horrible, man. And like, I'm not judging, but like at the same time, like, you go back to the 70s or the 60s or the 50s, people could perform, man. And
yeah, because the backtracks back then weren't really a thing.
No.
It was all just live music. You were getting it exactly how you sounded every time.
And that was special. There was this huge underground trade of like live recorded like cassettes of like Pink Floyd. Because, you know, not Pink Floyd, the Grateful Dead. There was a whole trade in the Grateful Dead cassettes. Like there was this big trade where people would have, you know, you would go and these people would be trading, I've got an extra copy of, this is the live set from this place on this day. And people are like, oh, dude, that's awesome. This is the live set I've got. People are like, I'll swap it. And then,
exactly.
And it was just like, you know, they'd be recording on a little Tascam, man. You know, it wasn't high quality recordings. Like these are just people in the audience, just like, but it was all special because, like, especially with the Grateful Dead, man, everything was different.
So that's like the thing too, I feel like, about music, which is honestly kind of a bummer, is like people's attention spans have, you know, shortened so much since social media has taken off, and technology and everything. So like, you know, an average pop song now, you know, your ideal time range for a song is like, you know, 2.5 to 3 minutes tops. And then like back in the day, there used to be like, you know, just jam bands, like, you know, Pink Floyd has like 10-11 minute track songs, and then you go see them live and they're longer live, and like that was like expected. You're like, oh, I can't wait to hear this song for twice as long when I go there, because they're gonna jam it out, and people would just go and listen to these songs and just get lost and just feel it. And now people are like, all right, next song. Like it's a bummer.
I noticed that, and I think it's kind of like, I think it is something that social media is kind of conditioning us towards, because I see it with my daughter. Like, I don't let her kind of just, you know, sit on the phone all day. There's no way.
Right.
But I will, you know, find educational stuff and let her watch it occasionally, you know? But it's crazy because I see, the second I give her the phone, I see that thumb start floating, and she just gets, and she's like, you know, the start, and I was like, hey, whoa.
Yeah.
Stick with that video. But and just we're so used to kind of diving into the next thing.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see if I mean, I think that one thing that people realized in COVID too is that people liked live music a lot. And I think when it was gone, people were like, that sucked.
Hold up. Wait a second. Yeah.
Yeah.
I took that for granted. We were like, and, you know, before COVID, it was so easy to be like, I don't know if I feel like going to that show. And I'll see them next time they come to town. But now it's like, are they ever going to come to town again?
Yep.
So it's like,
right.
It's, I mean, I've been to a few live shows here recently, and oh my God, you could tell the crowd is just so happy to be there.
Right. Right. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I'm feeling you on that. I think we're looking forward. Everything's still shut down here for live venues, and so we're hoping.
Yeah.
My wife has been having a hard time with that, you know, because she's a live music singer. Like she loves to be on stage, and she performs big songs and stuff. So it'll be interesting to see as things open back up what happens here. But yeah, man, I'm looking forward to getting back to the States, because I've been seeing a bunch of people. I've been watching a bunch of people post photos from, like, there's a big concert series right now happening in Austin, and it looks like fun as hell.
Oh yeah, the ACL festival.
Yep.
Austin City Limits or something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a big one. And there's a few big ones going on.
Yeah.
All these outdoor venues are doing really, really well.
Yeah. Which is awesome, man. Which is really awesome.
I just went to, like, my first concert at the Hollywood Cemetery.
Oh,
and that's really, really cool.
How was it? I've seen a movie there, which was awesome.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, probably one of my favorite live shows I've been to, and it was just so cool. Like, afterwards, just like roaming the cemetery. I don't know if we're supposed to do that, but it was fun. It was cool.
Yeah, man. No, I feel you. I totally enjoyed that venue as well. I can't remember what movie I saw there, but it was pretty awesome. Now, what if you could go back in time and give some advice to your younger self? What advice would you give yourself? And we're not talking change in the past, but just encouragement.
Right.
Encouraging type of advice.
I would probably tell myself to, I don't want to say, like, not enjoy myself as much, but, like, there was a lot of time on the road, and when I was touring and, like, playing at venues I never thought I'd be at, and playing with bands I never thought I would play with, that I was more enjoying the moment and kind of, like, partying and touring, more than, like, I should have been maybe having conversations with some of the people I met on the road, rather than just partying the whole time, like networking and just talking and getting to know a lot more of the people that I have come across with in recent years. So I would probably just tell myself to like slow down a little bit, enjoy all the moments still that you're enjoying right now. Obviously, I'm not telling myself not to enjoy the rock star lifestyle a little bit back then when I was younger, but I think I could have definitely done a little bit better job at just like networking and talking and growing, getting to know people better, and that probably would have set me up a lot better for now when I'm trying to do music on my own and take it a little bit more professionally, a little bit more serious.
Yeah. And I think that, like, a lot of musicians have kind of a negative, it's like a bad taste in the mouth to the idea of networking, because it can feel really, shallow, like you're just going out and trying to, but like that was one of the things that this show is like to inspire people, but I also love networking, man. But one of the cool things about it is like, I keep telling people, and like, this is the vibe that I keep finding, and this is something I love, man. I enter into this podcast with a stranger, but like most of the time, about 80% of the time, not everyone, but most of the time, I'm leaving with a friend. You know what I mean? And like, literally, you can't have an hour conversation with someone and not
have a connection or get to know them a little bit more, unless that whole hour was extremely awkward and quiet.
There have been those, but not too many, thank God. Yeah. So, and even those, even when something's awkward, like, you can still try to like relate to the person on why they might be feeling awkward that day, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think that's what I like that advice. I like that idea of telling yourself to look to the future.
Yeah, just
not look to the future,
you gotta
but
prepare yourself a little bit more. Like, it's just I mean, things like this, like conversations like this that I've had with you today, like there's so many of these kind of conversations that I could have had with people on the road and in the tour bus or in the green rooms, and instead I'm, just, out there partying and, having a really great time. Like, I don't regret any moment of tour.
Understand.
But I just feel like I could have been a little bit more intuitive.
Well, I think one of the most powerful things we can do is ask people about themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Curiosity, man, is just, it's a really, really wonderful thing to get good at.
Right? It is. And the truth is, we all have something we can learn from someone else. Like,
absolutely.
Every single one of us, if you're willing to pay attention. But you gotta be open to it,
Exactly. And you gotta learn, like, that not everyone always wants to just hear about you. Like, let people talk, ask questions about them. Like, that's the hard part about trying to network.
Yep.
You gotta not awkwardly. Is like, you can't just be like, hey, this is me, this is what I do. All right, cool, have a good day. It's like all about just asking questions, getting to know people, being curious, being genuine.
Well, and I think that's like, that's something that most people that are wary of networking, or most people that are nervous about that, are people that have been taken advantage of, or that people constantly try to take advantage of. And, we all need those people that help us, but like at the same time, they're guarded because they get a lot of people that come in and go, you know what, this is the person who can help me, and I'm going to use that relationship. And I think one of the things you can do to show people that, hey, you know what, I actually care about you. I do care about you. And if you can show people you care about them, and you actually do care about them and their story,
genuinely,
not just I'm acting like I care about you, but secretly I've got an ulterior motive. But like, if you can sit there and listen, and people, I tend to think about it like this too. We look at people as an adult, but the reality is most of us are still a little kid inside.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And
that little kid inside comes out when we hear our adult versions of Baby Shark.
Yeah, right.
When we hear that song that we like, and we hear that song that moves us, or that sound that moves us, then we instantly we're all kids at a concert.
Yes.
Every one of us.
Yep. I mean,
that's what's just so enjoyable.
I think if a band wanted to be really smart, what they would do is they would put a giant bouncy castle into the middle of a concert.
Oh my gosh.
Tell me that wouldn't. I mean, people would get hurt because they'd be just all
way too excited.
Excited. But it would be like the greatest concert ever.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'd be in there just losing my mind. It'd be awesome.
100%.
Right?
I mean, we get to a point where all of a sudden adults are on each other's shoulders at concerts. We're throwing gigantic beach balls around and keeping it up in the air. Like, it's like we're kids. We're kids.
I think that's the biggest danger in life, is to forget play. Is when people forget to play. People forget to
imagine.
Enjoy it. There was this one story about, I can't remember how it went, but essentially the idea of the story is, this one Zen master sat down. All these kids were coming around to play ball or something, and all these people were like, make these kids go away. And this guy was like, no, I'm going to sit down and play with them. He starts playing marbles with them or whatever they were doing. And they were like, why are you lowering yourself? And he's like, you just don't get it.
Yeah.
This is the good stuff, man. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's imagine that you've got Aladdin's lamp. Genie pops out. Of course, it's the old Robin Williams version. Much right. And you get a couple wishes. What would you wish for?
Dang, that's a good question.
You know, and it's a trick question. It's not a trick question, but like, it's a challenging question because I'm not asking people about wishes. I'm asking people, what do you want in life? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. I guess what I would want, and like obviously this is definitely something that's earned and not wished for, but I want to be able to. I want to be able to like have the living situation I have now, but have that be like solely supported by my music.
I like that.
Like, I'm not looking for glitz and glamour, like the big gigantic house and you know all the cars in the driveway. I want to be able to keep my current lifestyle that I have now, but just
have it
do that by funded by my music solely.
That's
just
awesome.
Not because I want to be a musician and be a star or famous or whatever, but I just want to be able to like do what I love every day, all day, and come home and have that pay the bills. Like, I want to just enjoy every moment I can that I have here on this earth, and don't want to have to have a day job just to do that.
Yeah.
But I know that's everybody's wish, but it's one of mine too.
Well, I like that, man. Well, I hope I'm gonna send that out to the universe, brother. Drink a little Felix Felicis to get that liquid luck.
So, I love it.
Yeah, right. Well, do you have anything else that you have any upcoming projects that you would you dropping anything soon?
Yeah, so right now I'm just solely focusing on my EP. The 2 songs I sent you will be on that EP as well. So Spaced Out and Wanderlust are both out everywhere now for people to hear, kind of get a taste of what's coming. But working on an EP that'll drop in spring 22. I have a couple music videos in the work for that, and a bunch of exciting things coming.
That's really awesome. Well, I hope people can tune in and check out your stuff, brother. But I want to...
Dude, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Man.
This is a great time.
I'm like...
This is great.
Literally, like, I love talking to people. And I think that people can share their stories and how they've, like, what they find passion with and what they find inspiration with. I think it helps all of us. So...
I would have to agree completely.